Yeah, the International Economic Emergency Powers Act gives presidents broad powers to do things or restrict economic activities in the interests of national security, but it contains some very narrow carve-outs. And some of those are that you can't ban just raw information coming in or personal communications. You can ban communications that come in that have something of value attached to them, but not purely based communications or just information. It's one of the few limitations on this federal law, but this ban fell within those strictures. And it's important. This opinion was only just released. It was sealed, and the parties apparently agreed to have it released. So it's just been released in the last few minutes. We're just digesting it now. But that is the judge's reasoning. Yeah. It's important to make a distinction, too, that it's not like a First Amendment argument. First Amendment rights are not absolute. You don't have an absolute First Amendment right to TikTok. Instead, the IEPA, the federal law involved, just contains some limitations. This fell within those limitations.
Sarah, it also suggests, or the judge said, that the U.S. would have to prove that the app itself and not just the Chinese were sort of the vulnerability here, or the problem here. Do you expect the U.S. to now go ahead and say, okay, sure, here's all the information that demonstrates that's exactly what this, or what exactly this app is doing? In other words, should we all expect for this to continue to be drawn out?
I would expect so. I mean, they haven't been able to come up with that proof to date. The EO was written a little bit sloppily in trying to come up with reasoning for banning this app because they haven't been able to tie a concrete reason that this app is, sending data from U.S. users to China. Of course, we also know there's a separate review process by CFIUS, the Committee for Foreign Investment in the U.S., which is also taking a look not just at the deal structure, but also at whether or not there's a national security threat to this app. And I think that's been the biggest problem with this whole ordeal. We haven't seen any definitive proof that TikTok definitively sends U.S. data to China.
Danny, what would you say is likely to be the next steps here? With the judge's ruling, does it become harder for the U.S. to proceed and more likely that TikTok continues to operate as is? Or does this mean the U.S. could resort to different kinds, perhaps more severe measures?
All this is an injunction against the ban. The government could appeal. It could start over fresh again, which it's done in the past with immigration bans or executive orders, and just redraft a new executive order or a new directive and take their chances again with the courts. The government has quite a few options here. Of course, it can appeal this decision. Again, it's only an injunction. It's a temporary fix. But the court did conclude that the plaintiffs here, TikTok, are likely to prevail on the merits of the case.
Hey, Sarah, it's Dom here. I'm wondering, I want to speak in a hypothetical here. I'd like to know how exactly the social media industry, the landscape changes in a world where this TikTok ban, so to speak, kind of goes into play. How does everybody else fare and what changes?
Well, a lot changes. You've seen Instagram's head, Adam Mosseri, come out and say this ban would be terrible for us and for all social media apps. Essentially, what it would do is it would broadly divide the internet between China and the U.S. I mean, the U.S. has always had an open and free internet. We've welcomed Chinese companies to invest in U.S. tech companies to make them better. Notice that Tencent has a 10% stake in Snapchat. If this ban were to go into effect, you would minimize those types of deals. And in my opinion, you would minimize innovation and the ability for U.S. consumers to experience new products. I mean, yes, TikTok was owned by a Chinese company, but 100 million Americans use it. So it would be a stark divide moving forward for the internet.